When my husband looked at me across the kitchen table and said, in a quiet, tired voice, "Maybe we should take some space." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just sat there, hands folded together, staring at a cup of tea that had already gone cold. You know, it's strange. People think the worst moments in marriage come with shouting, or anger, or slammed doors. But sometimes the most painful moments come wrapped in silence. That evening the house felt different. Even the walls felt farther apart. Our home, the same place where we laughed, shared meals, whispered dreams at night, suddenly felt like a stranger's space. And I remember thinking, how did we get here? How did two people who once couldn't spend a day apart become two people who could sit in the same room and feel miles away? I didn't answer him right away. I couldn't. My throat felt tight, like something heavy was sitting in it. He didn't push. He just sighed, like he was setting down a burden he had been carrying for too long. He said, "I don't want to hurt you. I don't know what we are anymore." Those words stayed with me long after the conversation ended. That night, after he went to bed early, or pretended to, I sat in the living room with only the small lamp on. Shadows filled the corners. The air felt thick. I looked at our wedding photo on the shelf. We were smiling so wide that day, holding hands, eyes bright. I touched the frame and whispered, "What happened to us?" It felt like something inside me cracked, but instead of breaking open, it stayed trapped. Quiet pain, gentle hurt, the kind that doesn't scream, but lingers. I realized something else that night. It wasn't just the marriage that was falling apart. It was me too. I had been moving through our life on autopilot, laundry, work, cooking, bills, routines, without ever stopping to feel anything. And he had been drifting silently right beside me. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. People talk about marriages falling apart because of big things, betrayal, lies, fights. But ours started falling apart because of all the small things we never talked about. And now here we were, two people sitting across from each other in a house full of memories, quietly unsure if we could keep going. I remember standing up from the couch, walking to our bedroom door, and just staring at it. The light from under the door was still on. I wondered if he was staring at the ceiling, thinking the same thing I was. I thought of opening the door. I thought of saying something. Anything. But my feet didn't move. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because he asked me to. Not because we were angry. But because I didn't know how to be next to him, without falling apart completely. And that was the moment I knew. Our marriage wasn't just cracked. It was standing at the edge. And unless something changed, unless we changed, we might not come back from it. This is the story of how we almost divorced. And how, somehow, through tears, distance, honesty, and a kind of quiet courage I didn't know we had, we found our way back to each other. Not perfectly, not magically, not instantly, but slowly, with small steps, with small words, with small moments. And in the end, we became happier than we had ever been. But to understand how we got there, I have to start from the beginning. Long before the night he said we should take some space, long before the silence settled between us. I have to go back to the days when everything still felt warm, hopeful, and full of promise. Because maybe that's how all love stories are. They start soft, become complicated, and if you're lucky, they find their way home. Let me tell you how our story began. Before the misunderstandings, before the long pauses, before the quiet hurting. Let me tell you who we were, so you can understand how we almost lost everything, and how we found each other again. To understand how close we came to breaking apart, you have to know how we began. Because the truth is, our story didn't start with pain. It started with softness. With moments so simple and warm that even now, when I look back, I feel a kind of quiet ache. I met him on an ordinary afternoon. Nothing dramatic. No sudden spark or whirlwind. He wasn't holding flowers or standing in slow motion like in movies. He was just there, laughing at something his friend said, sunlight catching on his face in a way that made me stop for a second. At the time, I didn't know he would become the man I'd share a life with. I just remember thinking he had kind eyes, the kind that made you feel seen without even speaking. We talked that day, only for a few minutes. Nothing deep, nothing emotional, just simple conversation. But when we said goodbye, I felt something gentle inside me shift. A small awareness. A quiet hope. He asked me out a week later. And our first date, well, it wasn't perfect. The restaurant was loud. I spilled water on the table. He laughed a little too hard at his own jokes. I got shy when the waiter asked if we were celebrating something. But somehow, despite the awkward moments, it felt easy, comfortable. Like my heart had finally found a place where it could rest. From that day on, something grew between us, slowly, like morning light seeping into a room. We talked for hours. About small things, big things, dreams, fears, childhood memories, future plans. And when he held my hand for the first time, I remember feeling a kind of peace I had never felt before. Like I belonged somewhere. And that somewhere was him. Our romance wasn't dramatic. It wasn't filled with grand gestures or extravagant surprises. It was built on simple things, warm conversations, shared meals, long walks, quiet laughter. We were young, but our hearts felt certain. Soon after, we got married. I still remember the morning of our wedding, the smell of flowers, the soft sound of people arriving, the way my dress brushed against the floor. And I remember seeing him standing at the aisle, nervous but smiling, like he couldn't believe this moment was real. When we said our vows, I meant every word. He did too. We held hands tightly, like we were stepping into a new world together. And for a long time, that world felt full of promise. We built a home. Not a big one, small, cozy, filled with mismatched furniture and hand-me-down curtains. But it was ours. A place where we cooked late-night dinners, watched movies on the couch, argued about silly things like whose turn it was to wash dishes, and laughed at jokes only we understood. Those early years felt light. We didn't have much. But we had love, and that felt like enough. But life, as it always does, began to bring change. Responsibilities grew. Bills got bigger. Work got harder. Schedules filled. Fatigue settled in quietly, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the steady kind that steals small pieces of you each day. At first, we didn't notice. We still hugged, still said goodnight, still held hands sometimes. But the spaces between us slowly widened. We both became busy, him with work, me with everything else. We began to live side by side without really living together. Meals became rushed. Conversations became short. Laughs became rare. And even though we still loved each other, we slowly stopped showing it. He would come home tired. I would be tired too. We would sit in the same room but scroll on our phones, each in our own little world. The silence started harmlessly. It felt normal, comfortable, even. But silence, when left unspoken for too long, becomes a distance. A quiet, invisible wall. And that wall grew between us. We didn't argue loudly. People think that's what troubled marriages look like. But ours was a gentle drifting, a slow fading of connection. Like a candle that doesn't blow out suddenly, but burns smaller and smaller until the flame barely flickers. We didn't realize the danger. We thought we were fine because we weren't fighting. But sometimes not fighting is worse. When two people stop talking, stop trying, stop noticing each other, the marriage slips into a quiet kind of loneliness. There were signs, small things, moments that should have made us sit down and talk. But we ignored them. Like when he stopped asking about my day, or when I stopped waiting for him to come home, or when he started staying late at work more often, or when I started going to bed earlier, hoping sleep would fill the emptiness. We didn't mean to hurt each other. We were just tired. Tired from life, tired from stress, tired from pretending everything was okay. And little by little, the warmth we once had turned into coolness. The closeness became distance. The laughter faded. We didn't notice the moment love shifted into routine. We didn't notice when holding hands stopped being natural. We didn't notice when our bedroom turned into a place for sleep, not intimacy. We didn't notice until it was almost too late. Looking back now, I realize something important. Marriages rarely break from one big moment. They break from 1,000 small unsaid things. We were drowning not in problems, but in silence. I kept telling myself things would go back to how they used to be. I thought we just needed time, or rest, or one good weekend. But deep down, I feared something was wrong. Something neither of us wanted to name. Sometimes at night, I would watch him sleeping and wonder if he was still happy, if he still loved me the way he used to, if he still saw me the same way. And sometimes, I would catch him looking at me with the same question in his eyes. But neither of us asked. Neither of us dared to. So we kept drifting, quietly, slowly, dangerously. We were living under the same roof. But we were no longer living in the same marriage. And the saddest part? We didn't even know how to find our way back. The thing about distance in marriage is that it doesn't show up all at once. It slides in quietly, like a draft through a barely open window. Soft enough to ignore. Small enough to dismiss. But slowly you start feeling cold. And that's what happened to us. Little by little, our warmth slipped away, replaced by misunderstandings, unspoken feelings, and small hurts that neither of us addressed. It started with small moments, like the morning he barely looked up from his phone while I was talking about something that mattered to me. I shrugged it off, convincing myself he was tired. Then there were evenings when he came home later than usual. No explanation. Just a tired sigh and a short, long day. I didn't press. I didn't want to seem needy. But inside, I wondered if something had changed. There were nights I would set the table for two, only for him to text that he had eaten already. Sometimes I waited anyway, even after reading the message, because waiting felt easier than accepting how different things had become. But it wasn't only him. I changed too. I became quieter, less patient, more sensitive to small comments. I withdrew into routines, cleaning, organizing, taking care of things, because those tasks didn't talk back or disappoint. We were both hurting in our own corners, but neither of us reached out. And pain left unspoken grows roots. I remember one specific night when everything suddenly felt heavier. He walked in at almost 10 p.m. No call, no message, just the sound of keys and the slow push of the door. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to be busy on my phone. He looked surprised to see me awake. "You didn't have to wait," he said. "I wasn't waiting." I replied too quickly. He nodded, but I knew he didn't believe me. I watched him move around the kitchen, heating up leftovers, eating quickly, not meeting my eyes. It was such a small moment. But small moments, when repeated, become patterns. The second misunderstanding. A week later, I found a receipt in his pocket, a dinner bill for two. My heart dropped. I stared at it for a long time, hands shaking slightly. I didn't imagine anything dramatic. But the fact that he had dinner with someone, and didn't mention it, hurt more than I wanted to admit. That evening, I asked gently, "Where were you last night?" He hesitated. Not long, but enough for me to notice. "I grabbed dinner with a colleague." I tried to sound normal. "Oh, you didn't tell me." "It was last minute," he said. "I didn't think it mattered." Didn't think it mattered. Those words echoed inside me. He wasn't wrong. Maybe it really was nothing. But it wasn't the dinner itself. It was the not telling, the distance, the fact that we used to share even the smallest details. Now he didn't think it mattered. I nodded and acted fine, but something inside me tightened. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I didn't know how to reach him anymore. The third misunderstanding. This one hurt the most. We had been sitting in the same room for almost 2 hours. Him scrolling on his phone, me pretending to read. The silence felt thick. At one point I whispered, "Do you still like spending time with me?" He froze. Then he frowned slightly. "Why would you ask that?" I shrugged. "I don't know. We don't really talk anymore." He sighed again. That same tired sigh that had become common between us. "It's not always about you," he said softly. "I'm just stressed." Those words. I know he didn't mean them to hurt. But they did. Because I wasn't asking out of jealousy. I wasn't asking out of selfishness. I was asking out of loneliness. After that, we both avoided each other for days. He worked late again. I spent more time in the garden. We slipped further apart. Our home felt like a hallway with 2 closed doors, both of us waiting for the other to knock. The emotional distance. There were quiet moments that stayed with me, like the time he sat at the edge of our bed, head in his hands, and whispered something I couldn't hear. I didn't ask him what was wrong, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know if he wanted me to care. Or the night I cried silently in the bathroom, covering my mouth so he wouldn't hear. Not because of a fight, but because I no longer felt like I belonged in my own marriage. We were living 2 separate lives, touching but not connecting, talking but not communicating, existing but not loving. And then came the moment everything shifted. The moment that pushed us toward the hardest conversation we would ever have. The night it reached the breaking point. It was a Wednesday. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. Just another quiet evening where the silence felt louder than words. He came home late again. Not very late, but late enough for me to notice. He walked into the living room, placed his bag on the chair, and sat down without saying much. I brought him a plate of food. He said thank you, but didn't look up. We ate in silence. When we finished, he stood to leave the table, and that's when it happened. He paused. He looked at the half-empty plates. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. His eyes were tired. Defeated. Sut. He sat back down slowly, hands trembling just slightly. And in a voice so soft it barely reached me, he said, "I don't know how to keep doing this." My heart stopped. He wasn't angry. He wasn't cold. He wasn't distant. He was simply broken. I felt something inside me crumble too, because the truth was, I didn't know how to keep doing this either. I whispered, "Do you want to leave?" He closed his eyes. "No," he said. "But I don't know how to stay like this." Silence followed. A heavy, aching silence. And then he said the words that began the conversation leading to the moment in part 1. "Maybe we should take some space." My world went still. Everything we had built, every memory, every laugh, every small joy, flashed through my mind. We sat there for a long time, not speaking, not moving. 2 people who once promised to face everything together. Now sitting across the table, unsure if they could face each other at all. That night was the turning point. The place where we almost broke completely. But sometimes, you have to reach the edge to realize you want to step back together. What happened next changed everything. When you're ready for the transformation, the emotional unraveling, the painful honesty, the turning point that saved their marriage, just say. The night he suggested we should take some space didn't end with shouting or slammed doors. It ended with 2 people sitting in the same room, breathing quietly, trying not to fall apart. After he said it, neither of us moved. The kitchen light hummed softly. The dishes were still on the table. The air felt heavy, like the whole house was holding its breath. I don't know how long we sat there. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. Time felt blurry. Finally he whispered, "I'm sorry." And then he looked down at his hands, like he didn't deserve to meet my eyes. I wanted to respond, but my voice felt stuck in my chest. Thick. Tight. Not because I was angry, but because I was scared. Scared of losing him. Scared of staying together like this. Scared of what space really meant. Was it a pause? Or the beginning of the end? He stood up slowly, pushed his chair back and said quietly, "I think I'm going to take a drive." I didn't try to stop him. I couldn't. The door closed gently, not like someone leaving, but like someone trying not to break anything on the way out. As soon as I was alone, my body gave in. I sank into the chair he had just left and let the tears fall. Not loud tears. Not dramatic sobs. Just silent, aching tears that felt like they had been waiting years to escape. For the first time, I said to myself, we might really lose this marriage. Our silent night. He didn't come home until late. I heard the door open, heard his steps, heard him pause in the hallway. He didn't come into the living room where I sat curled on the sofa. Instead, he whispered, "Good night," and walked into the bedroom. His voice sounded fragile, like if he said anything more he might break. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't trust my voice not to crack. I slept on the couch again. Not because he told me to. Not because we were fighting. But because I didn't know how to be in the same room with him without feeling every piece of me shatter. And yet, the strangest thing was that even in the pain, I didn't feel anger. Just sadness. Just fear. Just a quiet, heavy wondering. Is this really how it ends? The morning after, I woke to the smell of coffee. He had made a pot, something he hadn't done in weeks. He wasn't in the kitchen, but his small gesture sat there between us like a tiny olive branch. A part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me wanted to cling to it. I poured a cup and stood in the silence. I didn't know whether to walk into the bedroom or wait for him. My hands were shaking slightly, the mug warm against my palms. But then, he appeared in the doorway. Tired eyes. Hair messy. Shoulders slumped. He said my name softly. Something about the way he said it, gentle, careful, broke me again. He sat at the table, and I joined him. For a moment, we just stared at our mugs. Then in a low voice he said, "I don't want to separate from you. I don't want a divorce. I don't know how to fix this. And I'm scared we're becoming something neither of us recognizes." His honesty made my chest tighten. I whispered back, "I'm scared too." He nodded, eyes glassy. We both took slow breaths, fragile ones, like two people learning how to breathe again. "I don't want to lose you," he said quietly. And those 5 words opened something in me. I answered, "Then let's talk." He looked up, really looked at me. And for the first time in a long time, I saw the man I married, the man who used to tell me every silly detail of his day. The man whose eyes lit up when he saw me, the man who used to hold my hand like he didn't want to let go. We didn't fix anything that morning, but we started something. We opened a door, and that was enough to begin. The conversation that changed everything. That afternoon, we sat on the living room floor, something we used to do when we first got married. I think the couch felt too formal, too distant. So we sat on the rug, legs crossed, knees almost touching. He spoke first. "I've been overwhelmed," he said. "With work. With expectations. With feeling like I'm failing everywhere." I listened. Really listened. He continued. "And somewhere along the way, I started feeling like I was failing you too. So instead of talking to you, I just shut down." His words weren't excuses. They were confessions. I felt a tightness in my throat. "I didn't know you felt that way," I whispered. He nodded. "I didn't tell you. I didn't know how." Then he asked quietly, "What about you? What's hurting you?" I hadn't prepared for that. I took a long breath. My voice trembled as I said, "I feel invisible. I feel like we live in the same house, but you stopped seeing me. I feel alone, even when you're right beside me." He lowered his gaze, shoulders drooping with guilt. I continued softly, "And I stopped telling you how I felt because I didn't want to push you away. I thought giving you space would help, but it only made me more distant. He rubbed his face with both hands. I'm so sorry. I shook my head. It's not about blame. It's about us drifting without realizing it. We sat there quietly for a moment. Then he whispered, I don't want to drift anymore. The way he said it, steady, emotional, certain, made tears rise in my eyes again. He reached out hesitantly, fingers brushing my hand. A gentle touch. A fragile one. But it meant everything. I placed my hand in his. And just like that, something inside us shifted. Not fully healed. Not magically restored. But softened. We were finally letting each other in again. The difficult truths. Over the next hour, we talked about things we had buried for months. He admitted he felt pressured to be strong all the time, to provide, to succeed, to make sure everything was okay. He said the stress weighed on him so heavily that he didn't have space left for anything else, not even me. I admitted I had been lonely, resentful, hurt, but I hid it behind household tasks, behind pretending everything was fine, behind trying not to bother him. We both cried, quietly, the way exhausted hearts cry. There was no yelling, no accusation, no bitterness. Just two people opening up after months of silence. At one point he said, I'm afraid you'll wake up one day and realize you deserve better. My heart broke for him. Better doesn't mean someone else, I whispered. Better means healthier, happier, together. He leaned his head back, exhaling shakily. I want that. I really do. I just didn't know how to ask for it. The turning moment. After hours of talking, real talking, he reached for me again, this time more certain. He held my hands in both of his and said, let's try again. Not the same way we've been doing it. Let's build something new. A soft determination filled his voice. Not forced. Not desperate. Just sincere. I felt warmth spread through my chest, a feeling I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Quiet hope. The kind that doesn't shout, but settles gently in the heart. I nodded. I want to try too. He moved closer. Not physically, emotionally. His eyes softened. The wrinkles of stress around them seemed less deep. For the first time in a long time, we felt like a team. We didn't have all the answers. We didn't solve everything in one afternoon. But we finally took the first step. And sometimes, the first step is the hardest one. The promise we made. Before the day ended, we made a simple agreement. No big rules. No impossible expectations. Just 3 small promises. 1. We will talk, even when it's uncomfortable. 2. We will make time for each other, even if it's only 10 minutes a day. 3. We will reach for each other, even when we feel distant. Small promises, but they meant everything. When he said, I don't want to lose us, I believed him, because for the first time in months, his voice didn't sound tired when he talked about our marriage. It sounded hopeful. It sounded ready. And mine did too. Everything that happened after this, the shift, the healing, the rebuilding, is what eventually led us to becoming happier than we had ever been before. But before I share that part, I want to take you through the changes we made, the steps we took, and how our hearts slowly found each other again. When you're ready for the healing, the rebuilding, the emotional resolution, and the hopeful ending, just say, I wish I could tell you that everything became perfect overnight, that our hearts stitched themselves back together the moment we said sorry, that the pain simply washed away like dust in the rain. But real healing does not work like that. It is slow. It is quiet. It is made of small choices no one sees. In part 5, this is the part where those small choices began to matter. The first morning after the storm. The morning after our long, emotional conversation. I woke up earlier than usual. The house was silent. The kind of silence that feels fragile. Like if you breathe too loudly, it might break. I walked to the kitchen and saw him sitting at the table. He had a mug in his hands, but he wasn't drinking. He was just holding it, staring at nothing. When he noticed me, he smiled. A small, tired, honest smile. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning," I whispered back. I made tea. He kept his distance, like he didn't want to get too close in case I pulled away. I stayed quiet, not because I was angry, but because everything felt delicate. While pouring tea, I said, "I'm still scared." He nodded slowly. "I know. I'm scared too." Somehow, it felt comforting to hear that. Not because I wanted him afraid, but because it meant he cared. It meant he didn't want to lose us either. Learning how to talk again. Over the next few days, we didn't rush anything. No dramatic premises. No pretending that pain didn't exist. No sweeping things under a rug and calling it forgiveness. We talked gently, a little at a time. Sometimes the conversations were awkward. Sometimes one of us got quiet for too long. Sometimes we said things the wrong way, then corrected ourselves. But the important thing was, we were trying. I remember one night he asked me, "What do you need from me right now?" It was such a simple question, but it touched something deep inside me. I thought for a moment and said, "I need honesty, even when it's uncomfortable." He nodded. "Then that's what I'll give." And he did. Slowly, gently, he started telling me things he had kept inside for months. Worries, fears, doubts he thought he couldn't share. I listened without interrupting. I learned his silence had been his own way of drowning. And when it was my turn, he listened too. Not defensively. Not waiting to justify himself. He listened to understand. For the first time in a long time, we were seeing each other again. The quiet moments that made us stronger. Healing didn't just happen in big conversations. It happened in the way he held my hand while watching TV. Not tightly, but gently, like he was asking for permission to stay. The way I leaned my head on his shoulder again. Not because everything was perfect, but because trust was slowly returning. The way he asked, "How was your day?" and waited for the answer. The way I said thank you when he washed the dishes without being asked. Sometimes, love returns in the smallest gestures. Softly, quietly, without announcing itself. One evening, we were sitting outside after dinner. The air was cool. A little wind was moving through the trees. He whispered, "I miss this sitting with you." I closed my eyes and replied, "Me too." No dramatic music. No fireworks. Just two people rediscovering the comfort of being near each other. The day we finally laughed again. There is something magical about the first laugh after a deep hurt. It feels like sunlight returning after a long storm. It happened unexpectedly. He was trying to fix a loose drawer in the kitchen, and I was watching from the counter. He pulled it too hard, and the whole drawer came off, scattering utensils everywhere. He froze. Then he looked at me with this helpless expression, and for the first time in weeks, I laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. He blinked, then laughed too. Not because the drawer was funny, but because we were finally breathing again. For a moment, we were us again. The couple who used to joke in the kitchen. The pair who could find humor in little things. That laugh didn't erase everything, but it reminded us that joy still lived here, buried but alive. Relearning the language of love. People talk about love languages all the time, but after a marriage almost breaks, you learn new ones. You learn that love is a quiet room after an argument, not a slammed door. Love is asking, "Are you okay?" Even when you're tired. Love is not assuming, it's asking. Love is choosing patience over pride. Love is staying in the room when things get uncomfortable. I realized I had changed too. I was calmer, more aware, more willing to understand instead of react. He also changed. He became more thoughtful, more present, more open with his feelings. We weren't just fixing the marriage. We were rebuilding ourselves. The soft return of intimacy. Physical closeness takes time. Emotional wounds linger. Trust must settle before touch can feel safe again. We didn't force anything. We didn't rush. But one night, while we were lying in bed, still facing opposite directions, he slowly reached for my hand. He didn't pull me close. He didn't try to turn it into anything. He just held my hand like he used to. I felt warmth travel up my arm. A strange comfort. Gentle and familiar. I squeezed his hand back. And for the first time in months, we slept without distance between us. The moment I realized we were going to make it. It was a simple moment. We were in the living room. He was reading something on his phone. I was folding laundry. At some point he stood up, walked behind me, and kissed the top of my head. No words. Just a soft kiss. The kind of kiss someone gives when they're not thinking. When their heart simply moves. I stopped folding. I closed my eyes. And in that still, gentle moment, I knew we were going to make it. Not because we were strong, but because we were willing. Both of us. Finally. Fully. We were choosing us again. The promise we made in silence. One evening, we sat together at the dining table. No dramatic conversation. Just quiet, peaceful sitting. He reached across the table, took my hand and whispered, "I don't ever want to come close to losing you again." I squeezed his fingers and replied, "Then let's protect this. Every day." He nodded. And in that moment, without needing vows or ceremonies, we made a promise. A promise of effort. A promise of honesty. A promise of communication. A promise of gentleness. A promise of choosing each other, even on the quiet days. Not a promise that everything would always be perfect, but a promise that we would never let silence or pride become the third person in our home again. When people hear the words "we almost divorced," they imagine loud arguments, broken plates, or dramatic exits. But the truth is, our marriage almost ended because of silence, because of unspoken hurts, because we drifted without noticing how far we had gone. Sometimes, the most dangerous distance is the one measured in quiet moments. The ones where you stop reaching out, stop checking in, stop saying what you really feel. Our healing didn't come from a miracle moment or a sudden turn. It came from small acts, breath by breath, choice by choice. And now looking back, I see our story not as one of brokenness, but one of rebuilding. Let me tell you how our journey settled into peace. The new rhythm of our days. Life after pain does not return to normal. It creates a new normal. A softer one. A wiser one. We began to live with more intention. He now made coffee in the mornings and left a cup for me. Even on days he left early. Not a grand gesture. Just a quiet reminder that I was in his thoughts. I started writing small notes and sticking them inside his lunchbox or leaving them on his bedside table. Nothing dramatic. Just little lines like, "Hope today treats you kindly. I'm proud of how you've been trying. Thank you for making space for us." Sometimes he would send me a simple text during the day. "Thinking of you. Drive safe. How's your heart today?" We weren't romantic in the movie sense, but we were gentle, intentional, present, and that was more valuable than any dramatic gesture. Learning to sit with each other again. One of my favorite new routines became our evenings. After dinner, we would sit together. Not always talking. Sometimes just sharing the same silence. The silence felt different now. It wasn't heavy or tense. It wasn't filled with hidden hurt. It felt peaceful. A silence made of companionship, not disconnect. He would read. I would sometimes lie with my head in his lap while scrolling my phone or thinking about the day. Sometimes he'd trace small circles on my arm without even realizing he was doing it. These soft, almost invisible moments. They became the threads that stitched our marriage back together. The apologies that came in waves. Healing is not a straight line. There were days when old memories resurfaced. Days when I felt a pinch of old hurt. Days when I questioned, What if it happens again? And in those moments, instead of shutting down, I told him, I feel scared today. He didn't roll his eyes. He didn't tell me to get over it. He didn't get defensive. He held my hand and said, I understand. I'm here. Sometimes he apologized again gently, even if we'd moved past certain things. Not because he needed to fix the past, but because he could see that the old wound was still healing. And there were days when he needed comfort too. He would say things like, I'm worried I might fail you again. Or, do you think I've changed enough? I would hold his face in my hands and say, You're not alone in this. We're growing together. Healing became a shared responsibility, a shared journey, a shared softness. How God quietly guided us, without loud signs. We didn't have dramatic visions. We didn't have thunderclaps or dreams that spelled out what to do. God guided us in quieter ways. In the calm moments when we chose kindness over pride. In the whispers inside our hearts that said, try again. In the gentle strength that helped us speak truth instead of hiding it. In the patience that softened our sharp edges. In the forgiveness that felt more like letting go of heavy stones. Sometimes God restores not by rearranging circumstances, but by softening hearts. That is what happened to us. Not a miracle that changed everything in an instant, but slow healing that transformed us over time. And honestly, that kind of miracle stays longer. The day we realized we were truly happy again. It wasn't on a big anniversary or after a deep talk. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. We were in the grocery store of all places, choosing vegetables, laughing about the price of tomatoes, arguing playfully about which brand of rice to buy. Then he did something so simple. He put his arm around my shoulder and kissed my temple. Not because he needed to, not because he was trying hard, not because he felt guilty. He did it casually, warmly, naturally, like love had finally settled back into our bones. I looked up at him and thought, this is happiness. Quiet, steady happiness. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The peaceful kind. The kind that makes you breathe deeper. The kind that makes you feel safe again. The kind that feels like home. What we do differently now. People sometimes ask me what changed. I tell them, we talk. Not with anger, not with fear, with honesty. We listen. Even when it's uncomfortable. We check in with each other. How are you feeling? Anything on your mind? What do you need today? We set aside time for us. Not expensive dates, just moments. We treat each other gently. Not perfectly, gently. We choose each other, again and again. And most importantly, we don't assume love will maintain itself. We maintain it together. Every day. The lesson I carry in my heart. If I've learned anything from almost losing my marriage, it's this. Love doesn't disappear overnight. But neither does distance. Both grow slowly. If you do not water love, silence will grow in its place. If you do not speak honestly, misunderstandings will build walls. If you do not stay emotionally present, the heart will drift. But if you choose softness, if you choose to listen, if you choose to stay even when it's uncomfortable, love can return in ways even stronger than before. Our marriage is not perfect. It never will be. But it is real. It is alive. It is growing. And sometimes, that's all a marriage needs. Not perfection. Just two people willing to stay gentle, to stay honest, to stay together. My final words to you. If you're listening to this story right now, maybe you're in a place I once stood in. Maybe you feel distance growing. Maybe you're afraid to speak up. Maybe your heart feels tired. Here is my quiet encouragement. Do not give up easily. Do not walk away without trying. Do not let silence become your language. If there is even a small spark left, protect it. Nurture it. Speak gently to it. Fight for it in the quiet ways that matter. Because sometimes, the marriages that came closest to breaking become the ones that shine the strongest. Ours did. And yours can too.